What 80s movies hold up and are still worth watching 30 to 40 years later? First Blood. If you divorce this film from the needless and stupid sequels and watch it as a standalone film beholden to nothing that comes afterward, it's one of the greatest character studies ever put to film, and a classic exploration of PTSD, patriotism and the way Vietnam veterans were treated in the years following the war. Great cast, great script, great setting, great direction. What a perfect example of a film that is often overlooked because of its association with several terrible sequels that do nothing but shit all over the source material, thus nearly rendering that very source almost irrelevant. I like First Blood a lot. You see the interview he did where he saw the movie and tried to buy it back with his agent because they thought it was terrible. Was a 3-hour movie. He said he wanted all his lines cut, so the story was told with others instead of with him. It got cut down and now it is what we see today. That makes his monologue have so much more impact at the end. He rarely says full sentences to whole movie, very quiet, then the monologue is just gut-wrenching. Amadeus. Predator. The Terminator. Back to the Future. The Thing. Planes, trains, and automobiles. The Burbs. I watch Amadeus over and over just for the laugh. I didn't know that this movie was from the 80s. Great movie though. Airplane. 1980. One of the funniest movies ever made. 80s movies. 30 to 40 years later. How to feel old just reading the title. I never felt old until they started playing Motley Crue on the oldies radio station. The Thing is not only the greatest horror movie ever made, I'm hard pressed to name a movie I'd rank higher. John Carpenter in the 80s was on fire. 1988 They Live. 1986 Big Trouble in Little China. 1984 Starman. 1982 The Thing. 1981 Escape from New York. Don't forget The Fog. Short Circuit 1 and 2. Spaceballs. Die Hard. Dead Poets Society. Full Metal Jacket. The Money Pit. Scarface. Roadhouse. Twins. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Haha Johnny 5 is alive. Where shit, I don't see shit, is freaking laugh, priceless. Original Indiana Jones trilogy are God tier. God tier is high praise. I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark but none of the others. Clearly, I've missed out. I guess I have some catching up to do. Oh man, Last Crusade is my absolute favorite. Just so many great moments. Sean Connery taking down an art seaplane with an umbrella and a flock of birds. That scene is always amazing. That and the whole tank scene, and the Hitler scene, and the ending, and the beginning, and just all of it. Oh, I haven't watched it in a while, and this is one of the reasons. There are so many things about the blonde girl, and how she's treated by the writers and characters I don't like. First, she's extremely squeamish. Don't get me wrong, I'm too, but they treat her like a silly little girl when frankly, being scared of poisonous snakes and scorpions, or being freaked out when offered monkey brain is not an unnatural reaction. Secondly, she obsessed over her looks, while in the jungle, in life or death situations, and her stupid priorities are played for laughs. Thirdly, remember that kiss they have at the end of the film? Why is that so romantic? She clearly says she is not interested, and he pulls her back using force. Then she smiles and giggles, indicating that was what she wanted all along. Overall, the idea that women are just playing hard to get is dangerous, and should not be spread like this. I realize that the film was made a long time ago, but one should still be able to criticize it. I may have forgotten, or misremembered certain things. Please don't be mean to me because of it. You have to remember that the Jones series was originally conceived of as a pastiche of, and tribute to the whole genre of adventure serials which were popular in the 30s and 40s, but had died out quickly and became forgotten. With that in mind, Willie Scott was meant to be, I think, a caricature of the damsel in distress common to those films as well as the kind of dame characters from the screwball comedies of the 30s. I don't think they quite pulled it off, but I see what they were trying to do, and it was not intended to be a sexist put down of women in general. This is especially obvious when one thinks of Willie Scott in Temple of Doom as the opposite of Karen Allen's character in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Marion Ravenwood is a tough-as-nails fighter whose character is established immediately by punching Indiana Jones in the face in her opening scene. She goes wherever he goes, and never once is she really the damsel in distress. She in fact saves Jones' life in a couple of points in the film. By contrast, Willie Scott is none of those things. I just wish she showed some growth through the film and progressed towards being more of a badass, and that's really the failure of her character. She's flat, like her comic relief. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Breakfast Club really dated for me and was unwatchable, but Ferris is still classic. Breakfast Club is one of my favorite films, still holds up for me. I can quote it word for word, and usually put it on as background noise while cleaning my house. Ferris Bueller is indeed a classic. I can also quote 90% of it. Love my 80s teenage movies. Since I grew up with them, I had to scroll all the way down here to find someone that said The Breakfast Club. I also know it word for word and have seen it more times than I'm willing to admit. Beetlejuice is also amazing, but I saw someone mention that already. I just saw it the other day and I think it's one of my favorites now. Oh, his very popular edition. The Sporters, the Motorheads, Geeks, Sluts, Bloods, Wastoids, Dweebies, Dickheads, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude. What is so dated about Breakfast Club? I always thought The Breakfast Club showed how high school is basically the same today as it was then. Right, the slang might not be used anymore, but it still rings true on some level to every person that's been to high school in the US. Gen Z here watched Breakfast Club for the first time not too long ago. Loved it. If anything, I'd say it's the least dated teenagers movie I've seen, because the entire point of it is that people don't fall into set stereotypes, which is something most 80s teen movies fall victim to. The Running Man is one of my favorites. It clearly has the 80s look though, so I'm not sure how well it holds up, but it's fun to watch. I'm not sure how well it holds up. You know that scene where the girl goes to buy a soda from a machine and says, "Wow, it's $5? There's a soda machine at my local cinema," and try to guess what they charge. I got a kick out of the movie as a kid, but the book is so much better. It's also a game show where the guy has to survive to win, but the game lasts a month and basically the whole country is trying to kill the hero. The Thing. SKO from New York. The Princess Bride. The Adventures of Baron von Munchausen. The Shining. Back to the Future. Akira. Blade Runner. Little Shop of Horrors Brazil. The Fly. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Amadeus. Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Evil Dead 2. The Toxic Avenger. Scanners. Videodrome. Tootsie. Time Bandits. Reanimator. Ran. Who Killed Roger Rabbit. The Road Warrior. Return of the Dead. Waxwork. TerraVision. From Beyond. That's all I can think of right now. The last few are really, if you're a fan of campy horror stuff, but the others are all super solid. I haven't read the commentary, so there's bound to be a lot of repeats here. Edit. Forgot about The Blob, Texas Chainsaw 2, and Day of the Dead. The Bill and Ted movies. Batman with Jack Nicholson playing the best Joker. Alien series. The original Star Wars trilogy. I wish I could think of more. When I was a kid in the early zeros, I always would watch one 80s or 90s movie a day. Also, I would say Back to the Future, but those movies just piss me off post 2015. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is awesome. I love that movie. When Harry Met Sally. It still is one of my favorites. Das Boot. Return of the GD. Raider of the Lost Ark. Beverly Hills Cop. Altered States. Scientist studies LSD and isolation tanks. Bad combination. Big Trouble in Little China. There's some big trouble in Chinatown. Buckaroo Banzai. Just watch it. Then watch it again. 3 more times and you'll get half the jokes. Repo Man. I hate normal people. Normal people spend their whole lives trying to avoid tense situations. Repo Man spends his whole life putting himself into tense situations. Aliens. Probably the best sci-fi action movie of all time. Footloose, Dirty Dancing, Annie, Roadhouse, The Outsiders, Back to the Future, Breakfast Club, Neverending Story, Stand By Me, Willow, Ferris Bueller. I could be typing all day. The 80s was an amazing decade. Some of the best movies, music, shows ever made. PS. How the hell could I leave off Die Hard? Princess Bride 100%. Edit. Thanks for the award, mate. I just scrolled down, and I agree with all of these movies. Just great. The one movie I didn't see, that I always liked, was Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. I also didn't see Jackie Chan Kung Fu movies, which I recommend. He did some great stuff in the 80s. Bill Murray was huge in the 80s. I don't think anything he did then was bad, such as Ghostbusters and Scrooged. Also Blues Brothers is one of the greatest song movies out there. I saw someone mention Tremors. That's a movie that is the epitome of storytelling. There's no fat, just great fun story through and through. Did come out 1990 though, so purists would stay away if they wanted to miss a great movie. Kevin Bacon did some great stuff in the 80s, and you can't really escape from an 80s binge unless you watch the dance movies like Footloose with Kevin Bacon, Saturday Night Fever, or Staying Alive with John Travolta. Although Saturday Night Fever is 2 years too early, but they are great on top of Flashdance and Dirty Dancing, which were 80s movies. I'd even throw Rocky Horror Picture Show in the must-see dance 80s movies, but that might just be because it's so much fun and reminds me more of 80s than 70s. One other movie I didn't see was Real Genius with Val Kilmer, which I always loved as I thought of myself as an intelligent nerd. Val did some great ones like Willow, Top Gun and Top Secret. Also Steve Martin owned the 80s. Little Shop of Horrors, Three Amigos, The Man with Two Brains, Roxanne, just everything he did was great. The Jerk is a really great movie, but it's 79. I would also encourage you to check out 70s stuff. I think it's a really interesting era for movies. Woody Allen does great stuff there. Stanley Kubrick, Spielberg. It's fascinating to see how movies evolve through 60s to 70s to 80s. The end. Thanks for watching.